The things that we're thankful for tend to come from people who devote their lives to something greater than themselves. Many folks come to that devotion late in life, but Craig Kielburger discovered it early. He was in 7th grade when the death of a boy changed his life. It was a change so profound that through Kielburger, it has now saved and transformed other lives all around the globe. In that moment, 17 years ago, Craig Kielburger was struck by a profound truth. Something as important as changing the world can't be left to grown-ups.
Kids are looking to get involved. They're searching for it. And in an era where, adults often are looking for meaning and purpose in their lives, kids also want to assert who they are, not just by the video games they play or the peer groups they belong to, but by the contribution they make. And that's part of a youth's self-identity in the world. And not only is it good for the child, my God, our world needs it.
Craig Kielburger was a child when he noticed the needs of the world. As a 12-year-old in Canada, he read about the murder of a boy his age in Pakistan. Iqbal Masih was a slave in a carpet factory. Masih escaped to lead a campaign against servitude, but within 2 years he was silenced. Kielburger put down the newspaper and rose to speak.
We're talking about labor and the exploitation of children.
He made Iqbal Masih's fight his own. He talked to classmates, to Congress, to Parliament. To call him precocious is an understatement, as our own Ed Bradley found out in 1996.
But what made you think you could do something about it?
Originally, I didn't think I could really, but the only way you're going to ever find out is try. So after doing some research, I just walked to my classmates and said, listen, I read this article, here's a problem, this is what I know, which at that point was not very much, and I asked, who wants to help?
Turned out 11 friends wanted to help. With no money to start with, no wealthy parents or early backers, they met in his living room and started a charity called Free the Children.
Why you?
Why not? And if everyone in the world could say, why me, then nothing ever would be accomplished. Why me? Because I've met those children, because I've seen them, because I read the story of Iqbal Masih. Why not me?
In the 1990s, Kielburger wanted to free children from slavery, so he went to Asia, recruiting activists and government authorities to bust child sweatshops and sex traffickers. There were early successes, but when we went overseas with Kielburger, he told us freeing children was much more complicated than he had first imagined. What are some of the things that didn't work out? What have you learned?
Probably the lowest moment ever was the first time in Southeast Asia when we met children who we had freed before, who were back in slavery, to see that some of those same kids would end up back in the same grinding, back-breaking, desperate poverty. There is nothing that makes your heart fall more than that.
Kids he freed were being pulled back into servitude years later by centuries-old culture and traditions shaped by poverty and illiteracy. At the point that you saw that your original big idea wasn't working, why didn't you throw in the towel?
There are points where, frankly, there was a frustration and anger, maybe a slight desire to throw in the towel, but never a consideration of it seriously. Because that first trip I took, before I sat down with Ed Bradley, and that first 60 Minutes episode that was a turning point in our lives, that first trip, I made promises to a lot of kids there that at that time there was almost nothing that Free the Children could do in practice. We didn't have schools and projects and offices around the world. And the only thing I could promise them at that point was that I would share their stories with whoever would listen. And I just wouldn't give up. And when you make a promise, you have to fulfill it.
The way to keep that promise, he decided, was to attack hardship and ignorance, the very roots of slavery. Today, Free the Children is in 45 countries, a $30 million a year charity, building schools, providing clean water, and connecting local craftsmen to world markets where their traditions bring in good money. There are 2 million volunteers, nearly all of them under the age of 18.
So Free the Children today is the world's largest network of children helping children. So what that means in practice is we inspire kids. Then we give them all the tools they need to learn about these issues. Speaking tours, summer leadership camps, curriculum every week. Our bet that we're making is if you give kids the inspiration and the tools to change the world, it'll change their own lives also in the process. And the ripple effect is incredible.
Are we ready for We Day?
You can feel that ripple in the Free the Children celebrations that Kielburger calls We Day. He does as many as 9 of these a year, and when we came to this one in Vancouver, there were 20,000 kids. We Days feature acts like Nelly Furtado, Jennifer Hudson, and lectures by activists including Nobel Peace Prize winner Desmond Tutu. But listen to what happens when Kielburger takes the stage.
We Day isn't just a day. We Day is a movement that happens all year long.
Kielburger is joined on stage every We Day by his older brother Mark, who manages the financial side of Free the Children.
Like you coming together and taking action.
When we see in the stadium all those faces of all those kids, how did they get there?
You can't buy a ticket to We Day. Any kid can earn their way in for whatever cause they care about. Half local, half global, and they're there. These are kids who have done, bake sales and car washes and volunteered at retirement homes and local support lines, and they've started their own charities. And when they leave, they bring that inspiration. We Day is just the beginning.
I need a chocolate, the one with the chocolate.
We followed that bake sale money back to St. Anne's School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Free the Children recruits through schools, almost turning them into chapters of the global organization. There's so much trouble in the world.
Yes.
When we met 11-year-old Magdalena Dutkowska and 12-year-old Joey Hopkins, they were headed to Kenya, inspired by their first We Day.
We Day is like the biggest thing in the world. It's like the greatest event that could ever happen. And so it's just all these important people coming to one day, to one event, to talk about how we can change the world.
When a child donates their birthday money, there is an incredible responsibility that comes with that to make sure, like we have kids who have walked up to us and handed us a piggy bank. There is such a responsibility to make sure that money gets to where it's supposed to go.
When the bake sale money comes in and the piggyback money comes in and you count that up, what's it come to?
Well, the average kid probably gives, somewhere between $1, maybe $5, maybe $10. Over the course of a school, that's maybe $1,500.
So how do you save the world on that kind of money?
Oh, that adds up to millions and millions of dollars. Tens of millions of dollars every year for our projects. A penny is almost like a kid. People walk past pennies all the time and ignore them and think that they're insignificant. Kind of like kids. You don't really think twice. Can they really make a difference? But when you bring enough young people, enough kids together, then suddenly those kids can change the world.
And this is one of the places that Kielburger set out to change, the Masai Mara in Kenya. The Mara offers nearly every wonder of East Africa. The traditions of the Maasai people are rich, but their access to water and education is among the poorest in the world. Joey Hopkins and Magdalena Dutkowska raised enough money back in Connecticut to join other volunteers to build a new classroom here. Each year, 2,400 kids lend their hands overseas. Over the last 10 years, 130 schools have been built in Kenya. This one was finished in 2010. Now, 91 students are enrolled. Among them, Sharon, Naomi, Faith, and Marcella. Sharon, let me start with you. What does this school mean to you?
It means a lot to me because at first I could not even talk to people like you now. I did not understand English well, but now this school has helped me a lot to know more English and gain more confidence.
How long have you been in this school?
1.5 years.
You've learned this much English in 1.5 years?
Yes.
That's amazing. How many of you think you're going to go to university? Everybody. And now, a university education will be open to more students because after 3 weeks here, a new classroom was built by the kids of Free the Children. With 2 students at each desk, This classroom will hold about 50. At the end of the project, the Maasai honored Magdalena and Joey with a celebration and a traditional gift.
Really tight. Hold it really tight. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
I was just standing there with my goat that they gave me, and I was just like, wow. We did this, and we gave this new education to these kids, and now they are so grateful for it.
What are you going to do with the goat?
Well, I haven't seen my goat in a while, actually, so I miss it, but I'm going to have to leave it here in Kenya.
Leave it here. Don't you
Yeah.
think your mother would like to have it back in Connecticut?
I wish she would, but we can't even have a dog, let alone a goat.
What are you going to tell the kids back at school about the experience here?
Well,
What do they need to know?
what they need to know is that poverty is a real thing, and kids starving, like that are 5 or 4 years old, is a real thing. That not everyone in the world can just go downstairs, turn on their tap, and get a glass of water, and that not everyone has a proper education, and that you should really be thankful for the things you have.
By the time they cut the ribbon, it was hard for us to figure which kids had gained the most. The Kenyans got a new classroom, but it was the American kids who learned. They can be the change in the world.